You wake up, go about your day, think your thoughts, feel your emotions, and everything seems normal. But here's the question. Who is actually experiencing all of this? If your mind is constantly generating thoughts, worries, and judgments, who is the one listening? Most people go their entire lives without ever questioning this. They just assume the voice in their head is them. But is it? Because the moment you start investigating, something strange happens. Most people think they are in control of their mind. But if that were true, why does the mind so often feel like it's controlling us? Have you ever noticed that you don't choose your thoughts? They just show up, some familiar, some random, some completely unwanted. You don't sit down and say, "I'll think about this next." It happens automatically. And sometimes it feels like your mind is your worst enemy. You want to focus, but thoughts distract you. You want to be happy, but doubts creep in. You want to sleep, but your brain won't shut up. So the real question is, if you were truly the one in control, why is this happening? Why can't you simply decide to be calm, peaceful, and happy at all times? Because the you that you think you are isn't actually you. Most people live trapped inside their thoughts, believing them to be real. But thoughts are not reality. They're just stories, narratives that shape how we feel, how we react, how we see ourselves. And yet, we treat them as truth. But let's test that. Imagine sitting in a quiet room. Nothing is happening. Everything is still. But suddenly, a thought pops up. What if I mess up? Nothing actually happened, but instantly, you feel stress. Your heartbeat might even speed up. Did that thought predict the future? Did it change reality? Did it deserve the reaction it triggered? Yet it controlled you because you believed it. That's how powerful thoughts are. But what if you could see them for what they really are? Just passing clouds in the sky? Just noise in the background? Just stories that only have power if you listen? The reason most people suffer is not because of reality, but because of the stories their mind tells them about reality. If a stranger looks at you funny, your mind might say, "They think I'm weird. I must have done something wrong. People don't like me." But is any of that actually true? Maybe they were just lost in thought. Maybe they had a bad day. Maybe they didn't even notice you. Yet, because you believed the story your mind created, you felt bad. The mind is like an overprotective friend, constantly trying to prepare you for worst-case scenarios. Into these stories, the more trapped we become. So what's the way out? It starts with realizing that you are not your thoughts. You are the observer of them. As you listen to this, there's a voice in your head commenting on everything. That voice is not you. You are the one listening to it. And once you recognize this, you gain something most people don't have. Choice to stop living inside the mind and start living in the present. Because life is not happening in your thoughts. Life is happening right now. You see, the illusion doesn't break just because you notice it once. It keeps pulling you back in. Why? Because the mind has been running on autopilot for years. The patterns, the reactions, the endless loops, they've been reinforced over and over. So even when you start seeing thoughts for what they are, they don't just stop. They keep coming. They keep trying to pull you back into their world. They keep whispering, convincing, seducing you into believing them again. And this is where most people fall back into the trap. They think, "I get it now. Thoughts aren't me." But then, a bad day comes. An old memory resurfaces. A worry about the future creeps in. And suddenly, they're pulled back into identification. They forget. They believe the thoughts again. They feel consumed by emotions again. They act as if they never saw through it in the first place. And this is why waking up from the illusion isn't a one-time thing. It's a practice, a constant remembering. Most people think of self-awareness as something you achieve. But real self-awareness is a habit. It's the ability to catch yourself over and over and over. Not just once, not just when things are easy, but even in the hardest moments. Because when you can notice the illusion in real time, that's when you start living differently. Not controlled by emotions, not trapped in unnecessary suffering, not stuck in an endless cycle of reacting. Instead, you move through life with clarity. And that clarity, it changes everything. If thoughts are just patterns, if emotions are just energy moving through you, if your reactions are just conditioned habits, then what is actually real? Who is the one behind all of this? Because something is still here. Something that is watching the thoughts, but isn't the thoughts. Something that is feeling emotions, but isn't the emotions. Something that is experiencing life, but isn't defined by any single experience. That something, that's you, not the voice in your head, not the personality you've built, not the roles you play in the world, but the awareness that is simply here, watching, the presence behind it all. And the moment you realize this, not just as an idea, but as an actual experience, you become untouchable. Because thoughts may still come, but you don't chase them. Emotions may still rise, but you don't drown in them. Problems may still appear, but you don't lose yourself in stress. You see them for what they are, just passing clouds in the sky. And the real you? You are the sky itself. This is where real freedom begins. Not by controlling thoughts, not by forcing yourself to be positive, not by fighting emotions, but by stepping outside the entire game. Because once you know the game is just a game, you stop taking it so seriously. And that is when life becomes effortless. That's when you move with flow instead of against it. That's when you stop being dragged by every thought, every mood, every small inconvenience. Instead, you observe. You navigate life from a place of deep presence. And when you do that, nothing can shake you anymore. Most people don't realize this, but you've been hypnotized since the day you were born. Not in a dramatic sci-fi way, but in the sense that your entire perception of reality has been shaped by layers upon layers of conditioning. From the moment you were a child, you were taught who you are, what to believe, how to think, what to fear, and what to chase. Now, here's the real mind-bender. The person you think you are, the you that reacts to life, that chases things, that fears things, that holds on to an identity. That's not actually you. That's the constructed version of you, the one shaped by experiences, culture, education, and social expectations. It's the mask you wear without even realizing it. And the real you. It's the one watching it all happen. The one that has been there before the labels, before the fears, before the opinions of others. But because you've been so conditioned to identify with this constructed self, you mistake it for reality. This is why most people suffer. They don't see reality as it is. They see reality through a filtered version of it, distorted by their beliefs, fears, and assumptions. Something happens. Instead of experiencing it as it is, they experience it through a story they attach to it. They meet someone new. Instead of seeing the person as they are, they judge them based on their past experiences. They face a challenge. Instead of tackling it head-on, they label it as too hard, too unfair, too much. See the problem? It's never about what's actually happening. It's about how the mind frames it. And because they never question this framing, they live in a prison of their own making. So the real question isn't who am I? It's what am I seeing life through? Because your thoughts, your emotions, your identity, they are not reality. They are interpretations of reality. Like a movie playing on a screen. You can get lost in the movie. You can get emotionally attached to the characters. You can feel fear, joy, anger, sadness. But the screen itself is untouched. And you are not the movie. You are the screen. Here's where it gets even deeper. If you aren't your thoughts, emotions, or identity, then why do you feel so controlled by them? Because you're still believing in them. You still think the fear is real. You still think the doubt is real. You still think the narrative running in your mind is an absolute truth. But it's just noise. It's a conditioned response playing on autopilot. And once you stop believing in the noise, you stop being dragged by emotions. You stop being trapped in overthinking. You stop being a slave to the mind's endless chatter. Instead, you just see it, like background music in a cafe. It's there, but it doesn't control you. This is what true inner peace looks like. Not controlling thoughts, not fighting emotions, not forcing positivity, but stepping back so deeply that you no longer need to. Space between you and your thoughts. Space between you and your emotions. Space between you and everything happening in your mind. And in that space, freedom. The freedom to move through life with clarity. The freedom to feel without drowning. The freedom to think without spiraling. The freedom to exist without being consumed. And when you live from that space, nothing can shake you anymore. But let's take it even one step further. What happens when you go beyond thoughts, beyond emotions, beyond the self? What happens when you stop attaching to anything, good or bad? You stop seeking. You stop trying to fix yourself. You stop looking for happiness in the future. You stop running towards some imaginary better version of yourself. You start living, not chasing, not controlling.